Hello and welcome to another edition of the Photography Bar podcast. Today we discuss the R6 Mark II Canon sent us a model for review, and we'll let you know our thoughts. There's also a strange story regarding wedding photography, so do stay tuned for that one. And lastly, we do discuss Frank Kozik, the artist known for albums for Nirvana and The Offspring, also the artist group Hipgnosis, and we also give a quick nod to coronation photographer Hugo Bernand. Hi Cam, how you doing? You all right?
I'm very well, thanks. You're looking very well, and I'm hoping you say to me, "You're looking well."
Oh,
well,
you're looking
Cam.
marvelous, Cam. You're looking absolutely marvelous for a man of your age.
The reason why I say that is because I'm using a new Pixel Pro light to light myself up here.
Yes, you are.
And
yes,
I
you
just
are.
wanted to give it a go on this recording to see what it was like. And
But despite that feat of lighting technology, you still seem to be on 4x3, so you still look like you're in the 90s, Cam, I have to say.
I don't know why that's happened. I've obviously picked something that's like that. Anyway, on with today's show.
Well, let's kick off really, because we've been really lucky that Canon has sent us the R6 Mark II to have a play with. Now, obviously, this camera's been out since 2022 now, so we do understand this is not really an exclusive, but we just thought we've had a play around with it, and we just thought we'd share our thoughts about it. So yeah, so me and Cam, we had it at a wedding that we were shooting together, and I predominantly had a play with it there, and I think Cam, you then took it away and took it to other shoots as well. Before we crack on with what we thought about it, because the one thing this is not going to be is a massively detailed review. You can go online to all sorts of places for that. We just wanted to really share what we thought about it. But I did think we need to highlight some of the differences between the original R6 Mark I and now the Mark II, just so people know what we're talking about. So I won't go through all of this. I've been given this information from my interns, of course. So I am going to be reading this part a little bit because my brain isn't big enough to remember all this stuff. I guess the headline feature really, first off, is the megapixel difference, although it's only a slight difference. So the R6 has a 20.1 megapixel 35mm format CMOS sensor, whereas the Mark II has a 24.2 megapixels. So a 4 megapixel difference, which makes a slight difference, I think. As you can imagine, the mount's the same. They're both weatherproof, of course they are. The internal stabilization is exactly the same. The continuous shooting is faster on the Mark II. You can go up to 40 frames per second, where the fastest on the R6 is 20 frames per second. ISO is pretty much the same as in the shutter speeds. Nothing much difference there. And there is some differences in the viewfinders, which I'm not really going to go into because both viewfinders look great to me when I was using it. So, but the other, I think, big one for me was the autofocus system. They have vastly improved the autofocus system, which I think is phenomenal on the R6. But it's even better on the Mark II, which I'll go into in a bit. Dimensions of the camera are exactly the same. However, they have shed nearly or just over 200 grams of weight. So the R6 was 680 grams and the Mark II is 670. Oh, no, sorry, that's 10 grams of weight. I can't read my own writing. So yeah, so 10 grams of weight, which is good, you know, and that's included in the card and the memory card there. So yeah, it's not like a massive revolution, but there are some good points in here which we'll discuss. So Cam, you wanted to talk about the body, didn't you, first of all?
I did, yes, because when we received this camera from Canon, it comes in a solid Pelly case. Not the sort of case that a photographer would use for carrying gear around on an actual shoot, but it's the way it's. But I love a Pelly case, and it's
you do love a Pelly case.
Just the case, the way Canon send it to us is fantastic. But anyway, taking the camera out of the case, looking at the body, it's got the usual beautiful ergonomics. Now, I always, when I was really predominantly a Nikon user, I always preferred the feel of a Nikon to a Canon. Then I moved to Sony. Never got on with the Sony ergonomics. Corners were too
Yeah,
sharp.
they are a bit sharper,
Um,
aren't they?
then I moved to Canon, and I found, in actual fact, now when I compare the Canon R range to the Nikon Z range, I find the Canon's far more comfortable. Nikon seems to have gone for that squarer look, it seems, that sharper edge. And when you're using a camera all day, every day, a lot of the time, I know it sounds crazy, but those curved edges do make a big difference. So the handling and the feel of it is beautiful. It's exactly the same as the Mark One, except one major difference is really the buttons. Two buttons that have changed. The on-off switch, which we're always used to having on the left. So if you look at the top and you look to the left, that's where the on-off switch is traditionally with it, and with the other Canon cameras as well that I've used. And this time, what they've actually done is, what they've actually done is they've shifted the on-off switch. They've shifted it over to the left side, the side that your shutter button is on, and it's attached, I would say, is a way of putting it, to the to another dial. And depending on how you assign it, how you custom assign it, that dial you can use to adjust your shutter, aperture, ISO, or whatever.
Mm,
You can't. At first, I thought, oh, but can you accidentally turn it on and off while you're turning that dial? But you can't do that. It's very well put together. But
yeah.
on the left side, they've replaced the on-off button, which is on the left side, as I said, with a simple switch to flick from photography to video, which I thought was interesting, because they're basically saying, or it says to me, that a lot of people want to use this for video. So, and they want to go to a quick switch.
Well, one of the things that Canon have suggested with this, and it's not something that we really looked at with the video, is that they have solved the overheating problem that the Mark One had. So I'm guessing they are really trying to push this as, a good, relevant camera for videographers as well, which I'd imagine is why that they've made that switch a bit more obvious.
Sorry, and I'll mention a couple of things on video as well, as we go on in a
Mm,
few moments. And then looking at the body again, everything else, the connectors all seem to be the same. Battery again is the same as on the Mark 6, Mark 1, and Mark 2, except the battery life, I believe, is better on the Mark 2. I didn't use it for long enough to see a notable difference, but stats have proved that it is actually better on the Mark 2. Great dual SD cards. Thank you, Canon, for doing SD cards. You've not gone down the XQD card route or compact flash or something. You've kept the SD. You're user friendly, and that's what I love about it.
mm.
Canon have got the usual dial, the classic Canon dial on the back, which is essential. But recently,
Love the
though, I got my
dial.
hands on which I got my hands on an R8 recently as well, and that's Canon's budget, should we say budget full frame camera, and it
Hmm.
doesn't have the dial on the back, which
Does it
actually
not?
threw me on that. No, it doesn't. No.
Ah.
But there is a considerable price difference between the R8 and looking at sort of the R6 models as well. So generally, though, the mode dial isn't the same. It's beautiful. It's a lovely camera to handle. Lovely camera. Getting used the on-off switch being on the flipped over onto the right-hand side. I thought, oh, I don't like that. But really, to be honest with you, it's a matter of just getting used to it. And I'd got used to it after just having it in my hand for a few minutes, really, and then didn't think anything of it. So really,
I'll be
that's the
honest,
camera
I
body.
did switch over to video mode accidentally whilst trying to turn it on. I did that a couple of times when I was using it. But like you say, it's just about getting used to it, because it becomes muscle memory, doesn't it? When you're used to where it is. And you'll get over that, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. As far as the feel of it was concerned, the good thing about this review that Mark and I have done with it really is we used it on actual shoots.
Mm,
So the day after we received it, we used it at a wedding. We used it
mm,
there in situ. But what I did before we used it was, when I took it out of the box, I did just a few shots around the office, downloaded the card, made sure the pictures were on there, that sort of thing, and then thought,
mm.
okay, right, we're good to go. We're going to use it at a wedding, and we just went with it. Using it there at the wedding, I know there were a few notable differences, Mark, that I know that you're going to talk about, particularly with the autofocus, which we'll come on to next.
Mm.
And then I used it on a couple of other shoots as well. So rather than using it in sort of, shall we say, like lab tests, okay, we used it on actual shoots and I think that's really what people really want to find out from us, and we'll be telling you a little bit about that. But Mark, let's kick off with. Should we kick off with the focus, because that was the biggest thing that you found, really? That was your immediate reaction was, "Wow, this
Yeah.
is amazing."
I did like the new focusing system. I mean, I say new focusing system, it's basically an improvement of the old one. When I first got the Mark 1, I really loved the eye focus. I've always been quite dubious about these automatic point choosing selection modes that you can get on cameras. So I've never really used them. I've always manually selected my focus point. But the eye focus was really good. With the Mark 2, they've kind of improved it, and they've made it they've just increased the functionality of it. So with the Mark 1, you have the eye tracking mode, and then you have a point mode, which is back to manually choosing your own focus point mode, like the DSLRs did. And then you've got some center weighted modes and other modes in there. But it's only one mode on the Mark 1 that you can actually use the eye tracking on. With the Mark 2, the eye tracking is available on all those modes. Which is really, really good. And they made use of the new joypad, which they have at the back of the camera. And if you put it on the manual, so if you're choosing your focus point mode, it's really difficult to explain. Then you use the joypad, and it's a nice smooth sort of move over to the point that you want, rather than having to click it every time, which is great. But even if that mode is just somewhat on someone's face, it will automatically then go to the eye straight away, which I really liked. And it's the same with the center weighted ones. So, you know, it has two center weighted modes where it focuses on the center of the camera, either horizontally or vertically. So it's a strip down the middle, either horizontally or vertically. And if your subject's faces are in those areas, it will automatically go to the eye, which on the Mark 1, it doesn't do. It does something similar, but it's not the eye, not like the Mark 2. So I was really impressed. Now, I did take the Mickey out of the focusing system a few episodes ago. Actually, it was quite a few episodes ago when it first came out, because it has the new zebra detecting, eye detecting mode, which, you know, being in England, the lack of zebras, it didn't really bother me. But actually, I have to say the overall eye focusing was quicker and more accurate than the Mark 1, especially in lower light conditions. I found there was a good improvement. It also detected torsos a lot better, so it knew where people were a lot better. And this is already, you know, a really good system anyway. It's just improved upon. And that was the thing that I really noticed. I think that, you know, any wedding photographer, family photographer, or anyone who really needs that, you know, really does rely on a quick, accurate focusing system. I think that's probably the biggest thing that blew my mind away, rather than something like the extra 4 megapixels, which really isn't that much.
Yeah, and to me, I'm not really used to using the eye autofocus, but I had a go with it, and yeah, I could really see that it was an upgrade from the Mark 1. Incredibly quick, and we were using it in low light as well. That was, you know, that was the other thing, and we were using it with a 24-70 2.8 lens. Canon had sent us a 24-105 f4, but we put a 24-70 2.8 because we knew that we were shooting, particularly with the wedding there, we were shooting that in low light. Coming on to the sensor, which you just mentioned there, Mark, you know, you've got the difference between the Mark 1, which is about 20 megapixels.
It's 20.1. Yeah, sorry, just go back to my notes. Yeah, 20.1 to 24.2. That's the difference.
Yeah. Now, is that a noticeable difference? So immediately I would sort of think, it doesn't really matter. I mean, I'm sure you know, I wouldn't base my decision on buying a camera based on the megapixels, you know, when you're talking of that sort of range. And I still wouldn't. However, what I did notice, though, that I did some of the pictures that we shot at the wedding that were shot in lower light conditions, that when I zoomed into them on screen, and that's when they were downloaded, not on the back of the camera, of course, I noticed that there was a definite difference in quality. I felt the Mark II was better in low light. However, not enough for it to be really noticeable. And I had to really zoom in into those images as well. So, in my opinion, that there is a difference. But if you were basing your decision on jumping from the Mark 1 to the Mark 2 based on that, then I wouldn't necessarily say that was a game changer in any way. The other thing that I wanted to mention was the continuous shooting mode. Now, this will shoot in electronic shutter mode up to 40 frames a second, which is incredible. That's
Yeah.
double what the Mark II is doing.
Yeah.
And
Mark 1.
I had a go at Mark 1, and I had a go at it. And now, honestly, you just know it's going at such a rapid rate. And again, I think it's one of those things that you've got to sort of decide for yourself, how useful am I going to find this? You know, don't go out and buy a camera because it does this, this, and this, and something that you're never actually going to use. But the fact that it does that for the photographers that are going to need to shoot something at 40 frames a second, you know, it's incredible. For me, I never shoot continuous mode at a wedding. I know a lot of photographers do. I know, say, the confetti shot's going on and they'll keep that rapid button going. But no, for me, I still shoot single shot each time with that because I can work very, very quickly. And at the end of the day, how many images can you sort of, or do you want to be editing? You don't need to be using. I think a lot of photographers that are just shooting, just push their finger down and keep down at weddings. I don't think, for me, that just doesn't work.
I mean, I'd agree with you there. I mean, I think I use I think I use that more than you do, but not to the extent where I'd need 40 frames per second at a wedding. I like using the server. I probably do a quick succession of about 2 or 3 shots, but that's it really. I don't think I'd use it. But as I said, you know, motorsport photographers might find that incredibly useful.
That's just it. The fact that it can do it is what I think is the ability for the camera to be able to do it is a real plus. For some people that do want to do that, it's important to them, which is absolutely great. And now, just a few other things I just wanted to touch on. We were doing a shoot the other day, Mark, where we were trying to connect the Mark 1 via Wi-Fi, if you remember. And
yes.
Yeah, that was a bit hit and miss, wasn't it?
Well, we got it working in the end.
We did sort it in the end. However, the Mark II, now this is different. The Mark II, you can connect your camera with a cable directly to your phone, and you can control you can control your camera, the Mark II, from your phone. And I think that is absolutely brilliant to be able to do that. It's absolutely great. And so that's a real plus. However, for iPhone users, Mark, I know that there is a flaw if you're an iPhone user.
Oh yeah. Okay? What's that?
There are flaws. There are flaws with Apple products. Okay, so
I'm sure they'll fix it.
Right. You cannot connect using your camera. You cannot connect your phone to the R6 Mark II using your normal iPhone cable, the one that you use to charge with. You have to buy a different. Yeah, you need to buy a different cable for it, but you don't need to do that with Android. So.
Well, you know, if you drive a Jaguar, you have to buy more expensive tires. You know, it's just one of those things.
So for me, that was. Now, I used it on a couple of other shoots. One was a product shoot, using it in studio. I mean, great. I mean, to be honest with you, it was no different to using it to the Mark 1. Quality of the images, absolutely fantastic. No issues there with it. Before I touch on price and a little bit about video, Mark, anything that you want to mention on the photography aspect of it?
No, not really, other than the fact that, and I know I've spoken about the autofocus system, but I have to say I used it with 2 different lenses. So I used your 24-70 on it, as well as my 7200 on it. And there is a difference between the RF and the EF. Undoubtedly there is, but if I hadn't used the RF, I wouldn't have been using my EF lens going, oh, this isn't working. It was still really quick, still really good. So, you know, if you are worrying about that element of it with the adapter, actually, it still works really, really well. It's just the RF lens connection is just even better. But because I'd imagine, and just going, I mean, I'm not sure if it's where you're going to, but who would buy this camera? I think if you've got a Mark 1, I wouldn't necessarily swap my Mark 1 for the Mark 2. I don't think there's that much of an improvement on it. However, if I was a just DSLRs, if I was in a position I was a couple of years ago and I was looking for my first mirrorless, I would go for the Mark 2 over the Mark 1 because it's from DSLR to Mark 2. But you'd probably have the EF lenses. Use the adapter. You don't have to trade in all your lenses straight away. You can use the adapter and it'll be fine.
Yeah, I'd agree with everything that you said there, Mark. If you've not got one of the R-range cameras, if you've not obviously not got the Mark 1 and you're comparing the Mark 1 and the Mark 2 and which one should I get, go for the Mark 2. The price difference is about £300 to £400. So when you're spending that sort of money, it's really not the end of the world, really, you know, that you're going to go for the Mark 1 over the Mark 2, because buy the newer model, because there are extra features on that. You know, the menu system is a little bit different. One thing that I would like to say on that menu system is that the Canon Mark II does have a quick information menu within its menu system, which I found a little bit confusing, but it's just one of those things where you just have to get used to it. That's all. But so the price difference isn't all that great. If you're thinking of going into Canon and you're thinking of buying one of the R models, the R6 Mark II, yes, definitely go for that. The adapters, as Mark was saying, there is a difference, in my opinion, when you put the adapter on to use your old lenses, but it's minimal.
Yeah, there is.
But
yeah, it is a lovely change. I mean, I want to get some RF lenses because it is there, but you don't have to do it at the same time. I'm not sure. I think there is a greater price difference, is there not, between the Mark 1 and the Mark 2, though, Cam? Is that?
It'd be where I'd been looking, you know, I noticed that differences. I suppose the most, you know, was probably maybe around 450 I saw.
I'm just judging on what, because I paid for mine was about £2,000. Now that wasn't on an amazing deal. And that was at the photography show a couple of years ago now. And that was 19999 is what I bought it for. So £1,999.99p. How much is how much is the Mark II going for?
It's going for about, is it 2.7, something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, for me, that's like almost a third difference. So there's a bit. I mean, in the scheme of cameras, it's not that much. I agree. But this is why I probably wouldn't upgrade mine yet, because actually that 800 quid, it's almost like a third. You know, it's 800 quid, isn't it? It's 800 quid difference, which is almost a third again. But yeah, it's like I say, if I was a DSLR user, I'd go for the Mark II every time.
Exactly. I just want to finish off just on that, on the video. Just want to touch on a couple of things. I know a lot of people are interested in shooting video and what it does, but really it's just key differences. Not really going to talk about quality because we didn't really test it for video. We tested it really for photography. First of all, the shooting, and I did do this, okay, is I left the camera running because I wanted to just I just fill my office while it was just empty, and I just left the camera running, and I turned it off after an hour and 10 minutes. It doesn't stop after 30 minutes. Okay, and that's and that is a massive plus. That I can't, you know, for that feature alone, the camera is worth buying. You know, if you shoot video, it doesn't stop after 20 minutes or 30 minutes. It doesn't do that, which I think is absolutely incredible. The video button, as I was saying, is on the left, so you can flick easily to video. But the other thing on the video, and the last thing I wanted to touch on really, was that you can custom set the dial modes separately for photography and for video. Now you can't do that on the Mark 1.
Okay, that's a really useful function.
Because I know that we use the Sonys for video, and we custom set those for the video. So we use the custom set buttons all the time for that, and I think it's great. My final thing I want to say is that where is the difference in the 10 grams weight? Where is it, Mark?
There's 10 grams difference, which I mistook for 200 grams difference about 15 minutes ago. So sorry about that, guys. But yeah, 10 grams difference. No, where's it gone?
Yeah, we don't know. Something's missing. Something's been added. Who knows? But
well,
it's a great camera. And if you're thinking of buying it, or you think of upgrading, whatever, yeah, don't hesitate. find
Yeah.
the best deal that you can get, go out and get it,
It's
and you'll be good to go.
Yeah, you won't be disappointed with it. It's a really good piece of kit. And I say when I upgrade my the last DSLR I have, when I upgrade it, it'll be to the Mark II, I'm sure.
Yeah, good stuff. Now, Mark, I want to go on to something different, which is a very strange story that we've picked up on this week. Um, it's funny, but it's also a little bit odd and quite serious in a way, and it relates to a wedding photographer. Now, it doesn't matter whether you're a wedding photographer or not, this is still going to be of interest to you,
Yeah.
okay? Because anyone could be in a similar sort of situation regardless of the shoot. So, Mark, do you want to explain it?
Yeah, so I mean, actually, I've got my wife to thank for finding this one on BuzzFeed. She said you got to check, you got to check this out. And it's not April the 1st either, by the way. But yeah, basically, a photographer from Johannesburg shot a wedding back in 2019, and it concluded in the usual way. The bride and groom are very happy. I think it was photography and video, but both bride and groom are very happy with the results. Really, really happy, and that was it. Everything was concluded. Everyone went on with their lives. But 4 years later, which I think was a couple of weeks ago for the photographer, basically had the bride contact him. And basically the bride said, how are you? And the photographer's like, yeah, I'm fine. He said, well, not sure if you remember me, but you took some photos of me and for my wedding. But me and my husband are now divorced, and we won't be needing the photographs anymore. So we'd like a full refund, please.
Mark, shall we, sorry to interject there, shall we read the transcript? Because we've got the transcript, haven't we,
We
here?
do. We
Okay,
do.
and it's really interesting reading, listening. Okay, and so why don't we do this, Mark? Why don't
All
you
right.
be the customer and I'll be the photographer, Romeo?
Okay.
Okay, so you start, okay, because if you're out there and you listen to this, have a listen to this because we're going to read the transcript out as it was as it actually happened.
Yeah. Now, please do bear in mind the grammar from the customer isn't the best, so it's a bit strange to read. So it's not that I can't read. And also, the guy was called Lance Romeo, and she her first one, she says, "Hi Romeo, how are you?" Question mark. I don't know if you still remember me. You did photo shoots for me at my wedding in Durban in 2019.
Hey, I'm okay, thank you. Trust you're well. Yes, I remember. How may I be of service?
Well, I'm now divorced, and those pictures, I and my ex-husband don't need them anymore. You did a wonderful job on them, but they went to waste as we are now divorced. I will need a refund of the amount we paid you because we don't need them anymore.
Pardon me? This has to be a joke, right?
No, dear, I'm very serious.
Oh, I'm very sorry to hear that you and your husband are divorced, but as I'm sure you can figure out, that's not going to happen. Photography is a non-refundable service once I've already delivered to you the service and the pictures. I can't refund you because I can't untake the pictures. Take care now.
Now, you'd think that would probably just stop it there, wouldn't you? But no, this carries on, people. Okay, so that is something you must have in your contract, that no refunds. Again, that are no refunds. I think it's most meant, but never mind. But you didn't. So I'm entitled to demand a refund as I am no longer in need of your pictures. I understand it's not your fault, but you are a business, and as such, you must be able to grant refunds.
No, ma'am, you're not entitled to a refund. I would like to remain professional with you and just reassure you that you will not be getting a refund. It's bad enough you want a refund 4 years later. It's unfortunately embarrassing on your part. So there'll be no refund. Only thanks. Take care now.
You will be hearing from my lawyer. I've forwarded him everything. Sharp.
Lol. I'm sure I'm still being pranked. There's no way. Look, I really sympathize with you on the divorce. I can imagine what you went through, but this is not the way to deal with it. Other than that, there's really nothing more I can do for you.
Good morning, Romeo. It's fine. It's fine then. Let our lawyers deal with it. At least refund 70% of the money, and I can move on and heal from everything. Where are you? I'm in Joburg. Can we meet and discuss this issue way forward.
Wow. She told me she wants the money you paid me back because you guys are now divorced and the pictures are useless now. Imagine.
No,
And I
you're
think
talking. That's the
yeah, and
husband.
I think well, so what happened was the conversation changed a little bit because her
You're
husband got in
missing a bit.
touch, and I think I'm missing a little bit on here, and I
Yeah,
think he then got in touch and he apologized.
he did.
So
He was
and the
embarrassed on
photographer
her
thought,
behalf, but
"Mm,
also I think, which was also interesting, is the lawyer did actually get in touch with Lance. It's Lance from Mayo Photography. This is so, yeah, and basically they both laughed about it, and the lawyer was like, "Look, you've got nothing to worry about. There is no case here." And then since then, I'm pretty sure I read on his Twitter that she wanted, like, that the same refund lady wanted to hire Lance again for divorce photos.
goodness me."
And
Right.
Lance, I think, very politely told her to jog on. But I mean, so the one thing that did actually come out of it, and something that he did actually say, was that, and even in a conversation when she tried to hire him again, was that he's actually now changed his contract to say that if you were to get divorced, there are no refunds. And it just goes to show, really, how, as ridiculous as that all sounded, it could have gone the other way, because by law, technically, I don't know. I mean, is that in your contract, Cam?
It just, the whole story is just odd.
Mm,
Yes, every contract, every photographer should have a contract to protect themselves and also to protect the customer as well. You know, that's just, and you can pick holes with with every contract. I'm sure some photographers have been in a situation where, a customer has said something, complained about something, and they've looked in their contract and thought, oh, actually, this contract isn't quite watertight. I guess a good lawyer is going to, be able to pick anything apart, really.
mm.
So, I mean, it's just beyond really comprehension that this has happened. I mean, I like the bit really, which says, well, okay, well, look, let's agree on 70%
I
here.
know.
Um, Something isn't quite, yeah. So something isn't quite right there, is it? But actually, I guess, Mark, the serious message from this is for all photographers, wedding photographers, portrait photographers, commercial photographers, content creators. Do
Yeah.
you have a contract in place of any sort? Okay, and if you haven't, then you should do. Then you should look at
Mm,
it. No need to panic. Just do it. If it's something that you did some time ago and you've not updated it, then you need to look at that. I'm sure most people probably did something because of COVID. They put something in their terms and conditions over COVID, and I bet you a lot of people did actually review their whole terms and conditions with that.
mm,
And in actual fact, if you now go back to your contract, it might be out of date because of COVID. So
mm,
always keep your contract up to date. I can guarantee that someone's going to be able to pick holes in it and say, you weren't happy with your photos, that the photographer, you signed a contract somewhere along the line, that holes might be found, and you may end up having to refund some money back and that type of thing. But I think this is an odd one, but there's a lesson to be learnt there as well
yeah.
from photographers, and too many people taking risks. And it's like that thing, it's not just wedding photographers, but we get it now from a lot of places of work that we go to, where they want you to sign a risk, they want you to do a risk assessment. They want you to make sure that your equipment is pat tested. You've got to have a number of things in place. Some people are asking for £10 million public liability insurance. We have that because of the work that we do. But
Mm,
to ask a lot of photographers to put in place £10 million public liability insurance is, when they send the risk assessment through, it's not really for photographers, but they're sending it out. Venues are protecting themselves, I guess.
yeah. That's
So
basically
I
what
think,
it is.
so I think the lesson there learned is check your contracts and look at it and get that up to date.
Yeah,
Now,
absolutely.
I want to go on to a different story here. Frank Kozik, an iconic graphic artist behind album covers, including albums that he did for Nirvana, posters and things that he created for the Beastie Boys, the White Stripes, Neil Young, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, has unfortunately passed away at a
Yeah.
young age at 61.
It's
He was
not
an
an
American.
age.
No age at all.
Not an age.
He was a graphic yeah, he was a graphic artist, not a photographer. But photography is an art, and we should, as photographers, we should all be aware of different art forms and different artists, because I'm
Mm.
sure that photography was a part of what he was actually doing.
Yeah.
But he was a real, as they said, he was a real creative force of nature, and his work that he created and the success that he's achieved in a very short space of time took him to great heights. Self-taught artist in his late teens. He began creating artwork for friends' bands. Started designing posters. He used to paste them to telephone poles,
Mm.
and from there he moved into doing posters for concerts and everything. And I mean, it's all changed now.
Yeah.
Who pastes posters onto telephone poles and on walls and stuff.
No, it's all on Instagram these days, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but that all of that work, when you look back at it, it really stands. It's all very valid and everything. And he was responsible for designing a lot of logos, and he worked with brands such as Nike and Swatch, and he collaborated with a huge number of artists. And toy designers as well, which I found sort of quite interesting
Mm.
when I was looking at his work. Did some work for DC and Marvel, and
Mm.
created some superhero inspired versions of some of their work as well. So the chances are most of you have probably come across Frank Kozik's work, but have never been aware that he was the guy behind it. So I
Yeah.
wanted to give him a nod, because when it comes to, and we've spoken about this a few times, but I think so many people do, when it comes to album covers, that they were pieces of art.
Mm.
Some of the you look at some of the iconic album covers, Pink Floyd's Wish You Were Here, Dark Side of the Moon. Everybody knows those front covers. They all know, everyone can, if they see the Dark Side of the Moon album cover somewhere, most people will know that that's a Pink Floyd album cover. They may not even know the name of the album, but they'll know that it was Pink Floyd. And you'd buy, I remember the times when you'd buy vinyl, and I've got a really good sort of vinyl collection. Those are album covers, the Rolling Stone Sticky Fingers that had the guy's crotch on the front cover and a real zip on his
Mm.
jeans, if you managed to buy the one with the real zip.
Mm.
You know, and all of those people use photography. Hipgnosis, which were they were an art design group based in London. I think it was a couple of Swedish guys, Storm Torgerson and Aubrey Powell, or were the guys that started it,
Mm.
and they designed, and their work included a lot of photography. The Wish You Were Here album cover, for example,
Yeah, it's a good
with the
cover.
guys on fire. The
Mm.
guys on fire. He actually was.
Yeah.
It wasn't
Well,
done afterwards.
stuntman.
He was,
Yeah, stuntman.
yeah,
Yeah.
he exactly. That's right. Yeah, and you pour over those album covers, and
Before the age of risk assessment forms as well. Just going to throw that one in
yeah,
there.
yeah. Can you imagine? And
Yeah.
actual fact, this is. I know. It's just about to say, but the time. This also times in with this company Hipgnosis, where a film is coming out. I think it's being released in the next couple of weeks, because I saw a trailer for it only just this morning.
I thought I
About the
saw
album.
something.
Yeah, about their album covers, and they designed, and they talk. And in this trailer, they talk to Dave Gilmour from Pink Floyd, Robert Plant, Jimmy Page, Paul McCartney. They talked to Liam. I think it's Noel Gallagher that they talked to as well, because these guys were iconic. And the two of my favorites was the Wish You Were Here one, with the two guys shaking hands. That photo of the two guys shaking hands, and one of them was on fire. But the other one that I still think, and I want to do this one day, and I've never done it, was one of the Led Zeppelin cover albums was In Through the Outdoor. Now, I don't know if you were aware of this, Mark, but that album was, when it was released, it came in a brown paper bag with Led
Yeah.
Zeppelin In Through the Outdoor stamped on it. When you took
Mm.
it out of the brown paper bag, it had an inner sleeve, and there were two pictures on that inner sleeve, one on the front and one on the back. And the photo on that, or was it just on the front? I think it was just on one of the covers, was a photo of a group of, I think, 7 people standing in a bar. And you had the barman, you had a person sitting at the bar who was lighting a cigarette. you had a guy playing a piano, you had a lady standing in a corner, and someone coming in through the door. So I think you had 7 people coming in into it. There were 7 people in this photo. But what Hipgnosis did was they released 7 different covers.
Hmm.
Okay, and each of those covers was shot from the point of view from each of those 7 people. So in actual fact, you see 6 people in the image, I think it is,
Mm.
but the view that you see is shot from each one of those people. Does that make sense? So
Yes, it does. Yeah.
the guy who's sitting at the bar, who's buying a drink, is lighting a cigarette, and you see the
Mm.
flame from his match. And as he's looking down, you see his view, and then you've got the guy who's that you see the barman, you see his view of looking
Mm.
at it. And I think that was pure genius. So they released
Mm.
7 different designs of that album,
And I
and
feel
that
like
was
that sort
before.
of thing is it's a bit of a lost art in some respects. Yes, I know vinyl's made a bit of a resurgence, but the most popular way to consume music these days is through streaming, and the artwork gets kind of left behind a little bit with that medium, I find, which is a shame, because there's no way a record company would have that kind of a budget for like all those different albums, but with different covers on. It just wouldn't be cost efficient these days. It's not something they would do. So I do feel in some respects that, yeah, the art has lost a little bit in some of these things.
It's a great little thing on that, where I think Noel Gallagher from Oasis is at the front. You know, when you were collecting album covers, it was like the the cheapest way of collecting art or something. You
Yeah,
know, and so
yeah, I've heard him say
which
that.
is great. And then there was Paul McCartney was very briefly says that that he wanted for one of his album covers something that had to be shot, but it had to be shot on Mount Everest. So Hipgnosis, I think they actually went out to do this shoot on
Yeah.
Mount Everest. The photographers went out there. I think that's what actually happened. But I mean, incredible. And there was another guy, but just give him a nod just to finish off. There's Peter Christopherson, who was also part of it, and he was responsible for some of the earliest promotional photography that was shot for the Sex Pistols.
Mm.
So you know, again, for so many people out there, you're probably so familiar with these images that were shot by Frank Kozik, and the album covers that were designed and produced and designed by Hipgnosis. You're probably all familiar, but maybe you weren't actually aware that who actually shot them, and aware of the amount of photography content that was involved in all of that. Um, and if you're not an album collector, record collector, something, just go back and look at an album. There's so many books on great album covers. It's a
Mm.
great book to have in your house. It's a great coffee table book,
Yeah.
just to have the best album covers. So good stuff. So we've given a nod to those guys.
Yeah.
Mark, I just wanted to finish off on something very topical, the last thing. And again, it's a nod to somebody else. Hugo Bernand.
Ah,
Name
yes.
ring a bell? Photographer
Yes.
Hugo
Yes.
Bernand?
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. So yes, I believe he was the guy who was in charge of some of the coronation photographs. Is that right?
He was, yeah. And he
Yes,
also shot William
absolutely.
he was
Yes.
responsible also for shooting William and Kate's wedding, but he was
Talking
the one
about
that shot
choice returning clients. I mean, my word.
yeah, we'd like to book you again,
Woo!
please. So
Yeah.
so he did the official photos, coronation photos. Now, I read some mixed reports from different photographers on some of those images,
Ah,
and a lot of people were picking holes in some of the pictures, the way Charles is sat, the crown not being quite right, and all of that. And
well,
maybe that was the case, maybe so, but
maybe I haven't really
you know,
looked at it in that respect, but from the brief look that I got, they look good. I mean, I didn't. We were both working during the coronation, so I didn't
mm,
really get a chance to look at it. But I did notice that bird's eye view shot in the Abbey was about again, Westminster Abbey. I just love that shot. I think it's just a great camera view of what seeing, the way the floor and just the way the architecture is just zooming down like that. I just thought that would look really cool. But regarding his photography, I haven't really looked at it that much. The fact of the matter is he has got a dream gig there, and like I said, the best returning clients. I mean, my word, most of the other photographers would love to have that kind of project. It'd be very scary, and it just goes back to that joke I said many episodes ago. There's a joke about photography. How many photographers does it take to change a light bulb? I'll say 3, 1 to actually do it, and the other 2 to say how they would do it better. Unfortunately, that is something in the photography industry, and Sums them up,
I
I
mean,
think. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, the thing is, there's a picture here, you know, at Prince Charles and Camilla's wedding back in 2005. It's a group picture, and it's a family picture, and William and Harry are in that picture, and it's a group picture shot at a wedding. I could pick faults with that picture all day long, but I won't do, because he's got the gig. He's done it perfectly well. They're not things
Yeah.
that most people would notice anyway, and he's done it the way that he has, and he's got himself into that situation, and you know,
Fair
fair play
play.
to him. All the
Yeah.
best, but fair, you know, all the best to him. You know, great job, Hugo. It's great that a photographer, you know, it's great when you hear success stories like this. And for people out there that say, oh, he didn't quite do this, the crown wasn't right, or someone's not turned in, and all of that, it's all nonsense. You know, that's
Yeah. I mean, they might be
you know.
right, but you know, at the end of the day,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a picture there that I can pick fault with, but I'm not going to, because
yeah,
there's just no point. You know, I'm
there's
not
no
going to say,
point.
oh, no, he's got that completely wrong. When you're under pressure, you know, these things happen.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so good stuff. Mark, I think that wraps it up for another
I
show.
think that does, yes. So
I just want to say thank you to Canon again for sending us the R6 Mark II.
yeah,
Brilliant for reviews.
marvelous.
We're really looking forward to getting some more of those reviews from Canon.
Yes, absolutely. And I just want to thank all of you guys for tuning in and listening to us ramble on about stuff today. We do like a good ramble, but I hope you find it entertaining and educational, you know, all this kind of things. But please do subscribe. If you haven't subscribed already, if you're new to listening to us, please do subscribe. We are on Spotify, we're on Amazon Music, we're on iTunes, and we are soon to be on YouTube as well. I think we're going to be on YouTube. This episode might be on YouTube. I can't really remember. We are trying to sort it all out. But yeah, do check us out. And if we are on YouTube, check us out and subscribe to that as well. That'd be really, really cool. And yeah, all that remains really for me to say is cheerio, and looking forward to releasing the next episode in a couple of weeks.
Cheers, guys.